What is up, people? Chester 400 here, back with another video. Um, and with the Oscars recently, the Oscar nominations recently announced, I want to talk about my top 5 movies of 2014. So let's start it off with number 5, Gone Girl. Gone Girl, fantastic movie, awesome mystery thriller. Kept me guessing the entire time I was watching it. I'll try to avoid spoilers uh, in this top 5 list here. But really, if you don't know the basic premise of the movie, uh, Ben Affleck plays this, sort of regular guy, upper middle class guy whose wife goes missing, and then it sort of turns into this media uh, frenzy. It becomes like a nationwide media circus, and people start thinking, well, maybe he did it. Usually in these cases, you got to look at the husband as a potential suspect. So, I mean, and the entire movie, the pacing of the movie was so well done. It's such a slow burn, um, and it just kept building and building, and until the climax of the film, I'm thinking the whole time, I'm like, I don't know if Ben Affleck's character did this. Like, it's a testament to how good his acting and the directing was in the film. He didn't direct it, but how good the performance the director got out of him was amazing. I mean, because one scene I'll be thinking, yeah, this guy, he definitely did it for sure. He did it. And then the next scene, I'll be like, you know what? I'm not so sure anymore. I feel like maybe he didn't do it. And it just kept me going like that, back and forth. So number 5 is Gone Girl. Highly recommend you see this movie. Amazing mystery, and to me, there's not enough good mystery films come out that really keep you guessing like that. A lot of movies these days that you can sort of see what's gonna happen before it happens, but not this movie. I mean, unless you read the book, but I never read the book, so. Alright, brings us to number 4, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. This movie, I was so looking forward to this movie, and it did not disappoint me. This was probably like my most anticipated movie, 2014. This is the only movie actually I saw in theaters. I watch a lot of movies. I mean, other than video games, movies are probably like my favorite thing. But I like watching them in the comfort of my own home. I like being able to pause it when I need to stop and go to the bathroom or do something or whatever. Get a drink, whatever, what have you. Um, and so I don't mind waiting the extra few months or whatever, usually to see a movie in the comfort of my own home. But in the case of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, I was just so intrigued by this movie. It's such a fascinating concept, which is why 40, 50 years after the original series began, that we're still making these types of movies, just because it really is just a fascinating subject. And I love the way they approached it of, we see how this ape society develops. We're like about 10 years after Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and Caesar has formed this little ape community, and he's, the badass of the community, leader. And I don't know, it's just amazing. I love how they focused on the apes more than they did the humans, because they easily could have went the route of just focus on the humans, make the apes sort of seem like villains, but really you sympathize with the apes. I mean, they were really just a civilization, a culture that was just starting out and sort of finding their way in the world. Really amazing movie. And also another movie where you see the trailers and you sort of think where it's gonna go, what's gonna happen. and what you think's gonna happen does not happen. It's not your traditional, oh, the guy from, Gary Oldman. I'm not, without giving too much away, he's not a total villain. You watch the trailers and you're like, all right, that guy's the villain. He's gonna have this hate for apes, and it'd be completely, he'll be unreasonable. You won't be able to change his mind, but he's not a villain at all. Like, I wouldn't paint him as the villain whatsoever of that movie. Really fantastic movie. And I haven't even talked about the special effects. I mean, the CGI in that movie is impeccable. I haven't seen anything like it. And the performance capture, I mean, Andy Serkis as Caesar, Toby Kebbell as Koba. Just amazing, amazing. Like, some of the best CGI, if not the best CGI, I think that's ever been done. Alright, and number 3 brings us to number 3. So number 4, to reiterate, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. See that movie if you haven't seen it already. And also see the first one, Rise. And wait, while you're at it, go watch the old ones too. You can maybe skip the 2001 Mark Wahlberg, Tim Burton movie, which I also saw that in theaters way back when. But yeah, that movie, probably skip that one. But so, it brings us to number 3, Nightcrawler, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. This movie, Jake Gyllenhaal's performance, probably my favorite performance of the year. Just absolutely, shot in the face. Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal, he just becomes this character. I mean, like, you look, with no makeup or anything, he lost some weight for the role, but you don't see Jake Gyllenhaal when you're watching this movie. You see this fucking crazy sociopath. I really recommend this movie. If you don't know what it's about, Nightcrawler, Jake Gyllenhaal plays this really ambitious sociopath. I mean, he's just a socially awkward person, but he's highly ambitious, and he really wants a career. So he stumbles upon night crawling, which are the guys that film breaking news stories like car accidents or crimes or whatever in progress, and then they sell that news footage to news stations, to the highest paying news station, and they're called night crawlers. And Jake Gyllenhaal starts to realize he's sort of got a knack for this kind of thing, but then he starts sort of blurring the lines between just filming these accidents and these crimes and maybe sort of causing them, facilitating them in some way, and really just for his own personal gain, basically. He doesn't really give a fuck about anybody else. It's a really, really interesting movie, very intense. It's another one of those slow burn movies that sort of just keep, the intensity just keeps amping up as the film goes on. Highly recommend it. So number 3, Nightcrawler. Number 2, and these top 3 movies here, they could have been interchangeable for me, really. I mean, I went back and forth on which one was number 1, number 2, number 3. You could switch them around. They're all great movies. But number 2, The Raid 2. Hands down, The Raid 1 and The Raid 2, best action and best fight scenes I've ever seen in a movie by far. Like, without question. This is some of the best, like, most ridiculous, most realistic, beautiful in a weird way fight scenes that you'll ever see. The choreography is just insane. Cinematography on these movies, the way it's shot is just, the direction is absolutely fantastic. If you haven't seen the movies, I describe the first Raid as Die Hard with martial arts. It's about this SWAT team who sort of they get whittled down to one guy that they focus on mainly, goes into this apartment building filled with criminals and a drug lord at the top, and yeah, this one guy has to fight his way through all these bad guys, and it's really intense. And the Raid 2, I sort of describe as a mafia movie with martial arts. So think like Godfather or Goodfellas, maybe not on the same level in terms of storytelling as those movies, but with insane martial arts and insane action. And that's the Raid 2. I mean, I can't really pick which one I like better, the Raid 1 or the Raid 2. To me, they're one story, you know. The Raid 2 begins like 5 minutes after the first raid ends. So, I mean, it's one long epic journey for this character. Just amazing movies. Okay, so that number 2, the Raid 2. Which brings us to number 1, my favorite movie of 2014. Drum roll, please, because it is Whiplash. Yes, the movie starring Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons, about this kid, played by Miles Teller, who wants to be one of the best jazz drummers ever of all time. So he joins one of the best music schools in the country in New York City. Finds his way into like the best band in that school, led by J.K. Simmons' character, and J.K. Simmons' band leader is he's a drill instructor, you know, as a band leader. He's just so intense. He demands the best out of his players, and will stop at literally almost nothing to get that. I mean, he will throw a chair at you if you're not playing in time, or he'll slap you in the face if you're not playing the right note, you know. And Miles Teller's character, since he wants to be one of the greats, he'll stop at nothing to do that. So he takes this abuse, you know, to an extent. You know, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but he takes this abuse and, you know, sort of rises to the occasion. And it's just this back and forth battle between this band leader and this young drummer who wants to be the best. And it's also, again, a sort of a theme here, another one of those slow burn movies, where the intensity just builds and builds and builds, and the finale of that film is insane. I mean, you know, it's just, my jaw was on the floor at the end of that. It's one of those movies where the credits roll and you sort of have to sit there and just, you know, sort of think about what you just saw and sort of break it down. You know, you have to sort of digest it, you know, for a minute. So you just let the credits roll, sort of think about it, and it's one of those types of movies, especially the climax. The ending is just one of the best endings ever. So definitely see Whiplash, my number 1 favorite movie of 2014. Through a few honorable mentions I want to throw out there that just missed this top 5. If this was a top 10, they would have made it in there. But Guardians of the Galaxy, really fun film, a lot better than I thought it would be. X-Men Days of Future Past, I mean, it's X-Men, so I love X-Men, but sort of brought it back to the glory days of X-Men 1 and X2. And First Class was great, and this sort of just brought everything together. And really, I thought it was a nice, concise, not short, but like every scene had a purpose. It was very clear storytelling, and which is odd to say because you figure a movie with time travel and all this nonsense would be really hard to follow, but it was a really clean, easy to follow story, some great action, and, you know, these characters that we all know and love. So Captain America Winter Soldier, another one, exceeded the first Captain America in every way, I would say first Captain America is a mediocre movie. I mean, it's okay. You know, it doesn't really stand out to me. But Winter Soldier is awesome. It's like they said, hey, let's see what we can do if we make Captain America like a Jason Bourne type movie. But he'll still be Captain America, but we'll just make it like a spy thriller. And that's what they did, and it was awesome. And another honorable mention, John Wick. I recently just saw this movie. Amazing. I love this movie. It was a throwback to like 80s, 90s action. And I really like, there's a lot of, I love a good complicated plot line, intertwined stories and all that, but I love the simplicity of this plot. Again, without giving too much away, it's about a guy played by Keanu Reeves who loses his wife, and one of his wife's last acts, I guess, is buying this dog. And so after he loses his wife, the dog shows up on his doorstep, and his house is delivered, I guess, wherever they got the dog from. And he bonds with this dog, and it helps him get over the loss of his wife. And then he also has this awesome, Ford Mustang, this old, 69 Ford Mustang. And so at some point, these, thugs, criminals, what have you, see him at a gas station with his Mustang. And then, I guess it's a relatively small town, so they figure out where this guy lives, break into his house, beat him up, kill his dog that he bonded with, and steal his car. And then we find out a little bit later that John Wick is, like a former mafia hitman, and he's the badass. He's who you call when you want to get rid of anybody, since retired. But that's all it is. That's the catalyst for him getting back into the game and pretty much just getting revenge on the entire organization that these thugs worked for. And really all because they stole his car and killed his dog. And I just sort of loved how simple it was in a way. It's like he bonded with that dog, and you took that from him. He got over the loss of his wife, and that dog helped him do that. So yeah, I really like that movie. And another honorable mention is Birdman. Reason it's not in the top 5, I suspect it probably will be if I revise this list, is because I've only seen about the first half hour of it. Watched a little bit of it last night, but it was just too late. I needed to get to bed, work and all that stuff, so probably gonna finish it tonight, and then who knows, it might end up being my number one movie of 2014, because I've been hearing great things about it, and the first half hour definitely had me interested, so we'll see how the rest of it turns out. So yeah, just to run it down again, my top 5 movies of 2014 are number 5, Gone Girl, number 4, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, number 3, Nightcrawler, number 2, The Raid 2, and number 1, Whiplash. Top 5 movies of 2014. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe to Chester Gaming if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys on the next one, where I will most likely talk about my top 5 favorite games of 2014, so stay tuned for that. Alright, peace.